Hello guys, and welcome back to another tutorial. So on this video we are going to be doing the sewing part of this dress. If you missed the last one where I showed you how I drafted the dress, please go and check it out. I'll have it linked in the description bar below. So let's get right into the video. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to cut out our bra cup. This is going to serve as the lining. We are going to use our cup to draft out the pieces we are going to be needing for our lining piece. So this is going to serve as the lining. So I'm just going to draft this out, leaving ½ inch allowance all around this, and when I'm done I'm going to cut it out. So this is what we have after we're done cutting this out, and we went ahead to cut out 4 pieces of this, 2 for each of your busts. So we are going to set this aside and start working on the main cup, what we are going to be using for the rose drape. So I just took the fabric and I folded it the way you would when you are trying to cut your peplon. So I just folded this like so, and I'm going to take my tape and we're going to measure out 18 inches. And I feel like this is the standard because you have a lot of fabric to work with, so you can just drape your cup and trim off the excess. So you should not go more than 18 inches if you're draping this. So after I marked out 18 inches, I just ruled this out like so, and I'm just confirming that I have the same thing on the other side. And now I'm going to go ahead to cut this out, and when I'm done I'm going to cut another piece of this as well. So guys, after cutting that out, we're going to keep this on fold and sew this by ½ inch to close up that edge. So this is what it's looking like when I just placed it on the cup, and you can see how easy it is to just drape into that rose shape. And one thing you should take note of is the kind of fabric you're working with should not be too thick or too hard, so your draping can come out nicely. So I'm just going to start this process all over so you see how I did it. So this is what it's looking like. We went ahead to seal up that edge. We're just going to place it on our cup, and you can see that the cup is already darted. So I'm just folding this in, and how your rose comes out depends on how well you can drape this. So I'm just going to use my hands to arrange it the way I want it to be, and I'm going to be using my pin to pin this down to secure it. So when I'm done pinning this down, I can just go ahead with my needle and tack the areas I want to be tacked down. So be patient with this, take your time with this process, and just do your best to make sure it comes out well. If you're working with a very soft light fabric, you would find that you get a lot of results. The result of the rose and the way it comes out will be better, as opposed to working with, say, a fabric that is like a dull face texture. That kind of fabric will not give you a perfect result, so please take note of that. So I'm just going to go ahead to just pin this as I go. As I drape, I'm going to be pinning this down on all areas. So this is what our rose is looking like right now. I'm going to go ahead to just start stacking this down, and I'm going to be taking out the pins as I go. So guys, make sure you're making use of a matching thread so your work comes out looking nice. So guys, this is what we have so far, and you can see that these areas here we have went ahead to take out the pins. We've tacked those areas, and we only have this other side left. And I just want to show you that if you're finding it hard to get your shape, please make sure when you're doing this in a circular motion, like you're going in a circular motion all the way around, so that will help you come out with a nice looking rose. So we are going to go ahead to tack down the remaining part of our rose. So you can see how well the drape is coming out, and I'm just tacking the last part of the cup, because you can see that we've already exhausted the spacing in the cup. So we are going to just tack down the last areas we have left and trim off the excesses that we have, and you can see that this is what our rose is looking like. So this is what the rose is looking like, and you can see that I went ahead to pin down the sides. This is because I want to trim off the excesses and then sew on the sides of the cup, just to secure the remaining parts we have at the sides. So we are going to trim this off and then stitch down the sides of the rose cup. After stitching down the sides, this is the final result. So we are going to do the same thing for this one. So next we are going to set this aside, and we are going to bring in the lining piece of our cup, and what we are going to do is we're just going to join them together. We're going to sew it by 1/2 inch and then give it a good press. We are going to do the same thing for the other piece as well. So now we are going to attach the two cups to the bodice. So we're bringing in the bodice, and as you can see, I went ahead to iron stay on it. So I'm going to just find the midpoint of the bodice for where our cup is going to sit, and I'm going to create a notch just so I know where my cup is going to be, the midpoint where it's going to be, because this has no joining. So I went ahead to do the same thing for the cup, and I created a notch at the center. So I'm just taking my pin to pin this down, and we are going to take this over to the machine to sew this. So this is what it's looking like right now. We are going to go ahead to do the other one. We are going to fix the other one. So after fixing it, this is what we have, and I also went ahead to do the same thing for the lining, and I trimmed off the excess around the edges. So you can see that I went ahead to do the same thing for the lining piece, and I just fixed that on. So next we are going to set this aside and bring in our fabric to cut out the straps for the dress. So we are going to be cutting out the spaghetti straps for the dress, and I'm going to be doing this on bias. So I'm just going to fold it like so, and then I'm just going to cut the desired width that I need and the desired length that I need for my straps, and I'm just going to cut this out. So guys, these are the straps we are going to be working with, I'm just going to trim that part out. Then I'm going to sew this and turn it to the right side and also give it a good press. So these are the straps when I was done ironing them. You can see how neat they look. So we are going to just fix this on the upper bodies. So I'm going to arrange them at the desired place where I want them to be, and I'm going to pin it down and take this to the machine to just sew them on. And when I'm done sewing them on, I'm just going to attach our lining piece to the upper bodies. So guys, next what we are going to do is we are going to take our lining piece and place it right sides facing each other with our main piece, and we're going to sew by 1/2 inch at the top, and at the side we are going to turn this to the right side, and then we're just going to stitch on it because we are going to be overlocking that. So this is what it's looking like when we were done, and you can see that the sides and the bottom are going to be overlocking it, so it still looks really rough. So this is what the inner part is looking like. So we're going to bring in our back piece now. We're going to line in the back piece, and for the back piece you can see that the back piece is a bit high, and that is because I do not want my back to be too revealing. That is why mine is like this. So you can do this according to how you want. So now I'm just taking the lining piece and I'm facing this right sides facing each other, and we're going to sew at the top and do the same thing we did for the front, leaving the sides for overlocking. And I'm just bringing in the front piece to explain to you that you can choose to sew your straps directly inside the back part, or you can finish up the sides, and when you're done you can just stitch it on. So I'm going to be doing the stitching method. So we're going to line in this, give it a good press and set it aside. So guys, as you can see, this is the slit part of our dress, and what I did was I just went ahead to use my tape to mark out where I want my slit to start, and I just marked that out, and that was 34 inches, and I marked that out. And how I was able to get this was I created a notch to take note of the center part, and from that center part there I just took note of my nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2, and I took it all the way down. So I just made this mark so I know where I'm going to be cutting from, and now we're going to cut this out. So this is what we have. Next I'm going to take another fabric and place on it just to serve as a lining to sew this part in. So we are going to just sew that and turn it to the other side. So this is what it looks like when I was done sewing it. You can see the lining part there. It's just a little strip of fabric that I cut out. So I'm going to cut this out and turn it to the other side, that is, turn it to the right side. After cutting it out, this is what it looks like. So we're just going to fold this in and give it a good press, and use our hem gum to just help it stay on better. So this is what we have. You can see that I went ahead to iron it down with my hem gum, and this is what the front is looking like. Next we're just going to attach the upper bodies to the lower part and then join the front and the back together. So for the structures at the sides, these are the fabrics we cut out on our previous video for them. So what we're going to do is we're just going to fold them and then sew by 1/2 inch at the sides, flip it over to the right side, give it a good press and fix it on our dress. So this is what our dress is looking like after we're done joining the back and the front together. You can see here that there's still rough edges around. We are going to be overlocking that. So we are going to bring in the structures that we have ironed down initially, and we're going to start fixing them. So I'm just going to open this up, and if you remember correctly, when we were cutting this out, we have 2 short ones and 1 long one. So we're going to start by attaching the short ones first. So the 2 short ones are going to be at the top, while the longer one is going to be at the bottom part. So we're just going to pleat this and pin this down. Next we're going to take the second shorter piece, pleat it as well, and then we are going to pin it beside the first one. And finally we're going to take the longer piece and then we're going to pleat this directly next to the last one we added. So we're going to pin this down and then we're going to sew. So after doing that, we're just going to sew along this line here by 1/2 inch. You can choose to do this at once, or you can do this one at a time if it's too thick for you to sew through. So we're going to do this and then we're going to pin down the other side and sew as well. After sewing them, this is what we have. So we're going to flip the remaining part we have there to the opposite side, and we're going to just pleat and pin the same way we did for the first part, and we're going to take this to the machine to sew. So after pinning this down, as you can see, we're just going to sew this all the way down by 1/2 inch the way we did for this one, and we are going to do the same thing for the other sleeve. And that is it for this dress. It is done. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, do not forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not yet subscribed, and I'll see you on the next one.